Hey guys, it's Megan. Welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk to you guys about all the book series that I am currently in the middle of, and I'm also going to mention a few at the end that I have just at least started the first one, but I didn't get very far. So the first two books are books I'm actually currently reading the series right now, so I'm making some progress in them. The first is Vicious. I don't know what the name of this series is. Is there a name for this series by Victoria Schwab? I'm going to call it the Vicious series. I don't know. But I read Vicious just like literally this month, and it was so good. This is now one of my favorite books of all time. I absolutely loved it. So I'm reading the sequel, Vengeful, and I wouldn't even say that it's a direct sequel. I mean, it is, but it's so different from this one. Like, this could be a book you read in itself. Like, this is a contained story. You don't have to read the sequel. Obviously, the sequel is really good, and I'm going to read it too. I'm about 40% into the second one, Vengeful, and I hear that there is a third one coming out this year, maybe next year, called Victorious. So I'm very intrigued to see how that one goes too. And I definitely love the series and highly recommend it. The next series that I am in the middle of, that I am actually currently reading right now, is the Something Dark and Holy trilogy by Emily A. Duncan. It's not good. I'm not gonna lie. Don't get your hopes up about this book. It's not very well written, honestly. Like, there's a lot of issues with the pacing and just the logic. Nothing really makes sense, I'm gonna be honest. But the atmosphere is really good. This is the first one. It's called Wicked Saints. I picked it because of the atmosphere, honestly. Like, look at this cover. On the back, it had said it was a snow-frosted, blood-drenched fairy tale, the dark, bloody, and monstrously romantic, the villain love interest we've all been waiting for. Honestly, that whole villain love interest thing makes no sense, though. Literally, the logic in this book is just non-existent. So it's like if you walked into Hot Topic, though, and there was a lot of blood. That's what this book is. Like, there's a lot of blood, like so much blood. So anyway, I liked the first one. I was like, okay, I'll try the second one. So I've recently read the second one, which is Ruthless Gods, and that's where I'm at right now. I'm starting the third one like any day, so that's why I'm counting being in the middle of this like right now, because I'm about ready to start it. So anyway, you know, it's kind of fun if you just want something mindless. This is pretty good. The next series I'm in the middle of is just a duology. So I've read one and I have one to go, and that is Raybearer by Jordan Afuiko. I loved this book. It was one of my favorite young adult fantasy books that I have ever read. Absolutely just phenomenal world building, really fast paced, like really well written, really good. I keep saying that, really good. It's also relatively short, although the pages are really tall. So the sequel is called Redemptor, and which is honestly a little bit of a spoiler, not really, but like once I learned what a Redemptor was in this book and saw that that was the title of the second one, it made me think like I kind of knew what the plot of the second one was going to be, and I was right. But I loved it, and I definitely am going to continue very soon because I've only got one more book. I need to just finish it. Another series I'm in the middle of is the Books of Babble series, and I don't know how I feel about it. I gave this like 3.5 stars. It did not live up to all the hype and my expectations. I'd heard so much about it. So this one is the first one, Sinland Ascends. The second one is Arm of the Sphinx, yeah. And I went ahead and bought it as I was like maybe even a third of the way into this one. I was like, oh, I'll go ahead and order the second one. Then it went downhill. I've talked about it many times on the channel about my complaints with this book, that everything kind of comes together too neatly at the end, and that the main character changes, I think, way too radically, too quickly. Like, I'm fine with the kind of way his character is going, but I think it should have taken at least another book to get there. Like, suddenly he's just a pro at the tower when before he knew nothing and was like this bumbling, you know, just naive guy. So anyway, I'm gonna try the second one just to see, although I don't really want to spend too much time on it, so maybe I'll even listen to it as an audiobook. I don't know. I just hope it's better. I loved the aspect of the different levels, almost like levels of a video game or something, and each one was really different, but I don't know, like the second book doesn't have another map. It's still got the same one. So I don't know if he's gonna go to new levels or not, but that's really the only reason I wanna read it, is to see like what's on each level of this tower. And I also heard somebody say that the conclusion that just came out, the fourth book, like in November, is disappointing. So now I'm kind of sad and I don't know how much I wanna read it, but they say the third one's really good. So I don't know, I guess I'll keep going. Another series I'm in the middle of, and technically I'm actually reading right now, so I should have put this at the beginning, but oh well. It is the Society for the Paranormal series by, I can't remember her name. Something Varidasani, something like that. Anyway, I'll have the first book here on the screen, Ghost of Savo. I read this back when I first had the baby last year. I read it on my phone, just mostly sitting in the dark while I was holding him. But this book follows a character, a woman who, her name is Beatrice, and this is like the turn of the century. It literally is like 1900. It's like the first book was 1899. The second book, it becomes 1900. And this series follows her. She can see paranormal stuff, and especially animals. And there's like, she's got a dead husband whose ghost is still haunting her, and she doesn't really want him to haunt her anymore. So she says she still says she's married. She says she's still like Mrs. Knight because her husband's still around, and she's taken care of by this other family who then move her to Africa, and she's in her like mid-20s, so they don't think she's ever going to be married off again. And anyway, she kind of has adventures, and like the first one is her dealing with the lions of Savo in Africa, but they're like ghosts now, and so she has to see if they've come back. And anyway, it's just fun, and honestly the writing style is what makes me enjoy this book. It's really witty, I suppose would be the word, and just, I don't know, it's pretty comical, so I actually really enjoy it. It reminds me of Elizabeth Peters, if you've ever read her books. It kind of just sort of the same tone, like that Amelia Peabody series, just kind of reminds me of that. So there's 10 of these books, and they're all short. Like the one I'm reading now is the second one, called The Automaton's Wife, Automaton, there you go. And it's only 286 pages, so it shouldn't take me too long to read. Okay, a couple other series I'm technically in the middle of, but I don't know when I'm ever going to continue them. One is The Diviners by Libba Bray. These are huge books, and I read the first one. I keep telling the story all the time, but I read this first one when I was pregnant, and I was really like nauseous all the time, and so I just associate this book with being nauseous. That's why it took me so long to finish it, so I don't even know if I want to read the second one, but I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it was like the best book ever, but the atmosphere was really good, especially for young adult. This is young adult. Kind of a horror, urban fantasy sort of thing, but set in like the roaring 20s in New York. So that's something a little bit different and unique. So I may continue one day. I have the second book in my school library. Well, I have all of them in my school library, but it's literally sitting on my shelf at home. I borrowed it, checked it out, have not read it. It's just sitting there. So maybe one day I'll get around to this one. Another series I may not finish anytime soon is my reread of Game of Thrones. I have read all 5 Game of Thrones books. It's just been a hot minute since I've done so. This is my signed paperback. You know, who doesn't love a good signed paperback by George R. R. Martin there? Smells pretty good. Anyway, I started rereading these maybe 2 years ago, something like that, and then I got distracted by other things. And now that I've kind of discovered BookTube and found all these other books that I want to read, I don't have time for rereads anymore, I guess, because I have so many new books. I have like 280 books on my TBR or something like that. So this book, well, I'm on the third one, I guess I should say that. I reread the first 2. I think I physically read this one, and I think I listened to the second one on audio. And the third one, the reason why I did it, honestly, is so that I could read the 3rd, 4th, and 5th ones again and really focus on the details, because I think I missed out the first time. The first time I was just reading for the general overall main plot, and I missed out on so much of the world building and the side characters and the subplots. And my husband, who has never read the books, knows more about the little extra things than I do, like the world building aspects. He'll be like, oh, don't you remember the Blackfire Rebellion? And I'm like, what's the Blackfire Rebellion? Apparently I missed out on that the first time. So that's kind of one main reason I want to continue. Maybe one day, especially if there's any word on the horizon of the 6th book coming out, then maybe that's when, okay, that's what I'll do. When the 6th book is going to come out, I will go back and finish reading 3, 4, and 5. So there's a couple other books that I'm technically kind of in the middle of the series, but like in the sense that I barely just started the first one. I've started Red Rising by Pierce Brown 3 times now, and I can't get past the first like 30 pages. And I know it's more just that I'm not having time to read it. I think it's gonna be good if I can read it, because I hear it gets really, really good, especially like in the second book. So I'm gonna continue that. Technically, The Blade Itself, the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, I've started that. I think I read like 100 or so pages, 150 pages of The Blade Itself, and it was good, and I want to keep reading, but I just sort of put it down so that I could read other things, so I need to pick that back up again. There's a bunch like that honestly I don't even think I need to mention, because I've only read like a few pages of, like Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons. I technically read like 20 pages of it or something, or 50, whatever it was. I just need to restart all of those books basically, so I can't really say I'm in the middle of those series. There's other series too that I'm in the middle of, in the sense that I am waiting for the next book. Like I'm waiting for the next Dresden Files book. I'm waiting for the next Mummy Anne Rice book, which is coming out February 1st, which is so sad because, oh my gosh, it's her last book that she ever wrote. There's also, let's see, well, Game of Thrones, the King Killer Chronicles, like Name of the Wind and all that. So like all those are series I'm caught up on. I'm just awaiting the next book. Nevermore, I just finished reading the 3 Nevermore books that are out right now, waiting on the 4th one, which comes out in October. So like I've got a ways to go on some of those books, but we're waiting for them because some of them don't even have release dates at all. But I'm pretty happy, honestly, with how few series I am in the middle of, because I've watched other YouTubers' channels and they are in the middle of like 50 series or 20 series. I mean, I don't really have that many, especially ones that I'm actually going to continue. So I'm doing pretty well with that because I've discovered the secret. The secret for me, anyway, is I just need to power through and read them all at once. If I put them down, the chances of me going back and picking it up again are much, much slimmer. So I think once I get interested in a book, I just need to breeze through it, just blow right through it and get it done, even if I get a little bit tired of it. And that's sort of the case with Something Dark and Holy, Nevermore. Not that I don't like those books, but just that in fact I love Nevermore, but I just almost got burnt out at the end because I read them so quickly and read them just so much back to back to back. But if I don't, then I'm just not gonna read them. So it's almost like too much of a good thing, I'd say that's what it is. But anyway, enough rambling. So those are series that I'm currently in the middle of. I am going to continue most of them, and fingers crossed I do it this year. That's the plan. Maybe not like the Diviners and Game of Thrones, but for sure Ghost of Savo or the Society for the Paranormals, because I'm reading it right now. For sure Sinless Sins, the Books of Babble series, Ray Bear for sure, Wicked Saints, gonna finish that 3rd book for sure, and Vengeful, gonna finish that one for sure. So definitely some certainties on my TBR for the year there. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments down below the series that you guys are in the middle of, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.